Hello and welcome to the Practical Pistol Podcast brought to you by Masterpiece Arms. I'm your host, Travis Tomasie. Today with me, my buddy, Greg Clement, Team MPA shooter. Awesome dude. And Greg, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I appreciate you taking time. We have got in my opinion, a pretty interesting subject to talk about today, and that is wide transitions.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
So,
looking forward to it.
Yeah, let's talk. And I don't think that people talk enough about this. Certainly when you're talking about smaller separations between targets, transitions is a common topic and how to do that and how to do it well. But when we get past, 90 plus degrees of separation, I think that there's some lessons. And you and I have done quite a bit of testing on this. So I think it'd be interesting to break it down and share our findings. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. It is kind of a niche thing, too, though, because, you don't see targets outside of a 90-degree transition super often in the stage, but when you do, it's, it can be a separator.
That is true. You don't see it a whole lot. I do notice it more, I would say, at major matches.
Also, Florida really seems to love them.
Oh,
Specifically, Volusia.
great point. That is the truth.
Gorka loves setting up those stages where you just go across your body the whole way down a hallway. Yeah.
That's right. I like that. I like the way he sets them up. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think you and I both are, the metrics and testing really appeals to both of us. We're I like to think of it like students of the game. We're always looking for a better way to do what we do. And we text to each other quite a bit, like, hey, what do you think about this? Like recently we were talking about entries into positions and let's figure out a better way to do that. And the way that the wide transitions came up, can you kind of give a little background how that came up? And you started the conversation, and I was really glad you did.
Yeah, so I like to watch people that are better than me and try to figure out what they're doing that I'm not. And a lot of wide transitions will see that like rainbow thing. And so I was digging through some higher level shooters videos trying to figure out if that was something I needed to start playing with. And I was stalking Edens on Instagram, scrolling through his stuff, and I saw him like compress the gun in as he came across his body for a super wide transition, and I hadn't seen that before, so immediately texted him and you and started asking questions, and then you already knew the answer, but you sent me to the range to test it anyway, which was good.
That was great. I just loved that you were on a discovery, and it's not a question you get much. And Max, I would say that it was Max, Michelle, and we were testing this back in like 2009 in the AMU. And I think we spent like a week on it. But
I can make you feel old, Travis, because I was 9
yeah,
years old
I know.
with that.
Seriously, and I do. Oh, so, and I wasn't trying to be hard on you. I was like, Greg is a really smart cat. I would love to see his approach on it. And I was really impressed with your methodology, your data acquisition. And we're going to share your spreadsheet, but also the fact you did a lot of things that I think people can learn from, our viewers can, and how you broke down this testing. And the fact that you actually tested it instead of monkey see, monkey do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm seeing these people all over social media doing it one way. Well, except you saw Aaron do it differently. But Aaron Edens from the AMU, who's a phenomenal shooter, national champion, great guy to be watching.
Oh, yeah.
And you said, well, wait a minute, maybe I need to know what the answer is here. What is the most efficient way? And you also broke it down into hits as well.
Yes.
Which I think I think that's really important.
Our game is hits and time. So sometimes if the fastest way gets me a delta every time, I'm not sure it's worth
it. Exactly. You could kind of throw that out,
Yeah.
And let's talk real quick about the three different ways to approach this. And Greg, I would say, like, for our viewers And I'm not trying to low IQ anybody, but when we talk about degrees of separation between the targets, it can, if you're having a difficult time, like visualizing 120 degrees. I know this sounds basic, but you can take a compass. They even, they're even on your phone. You can shoot like a 0 degree azimuth and then turn 120 degrees, and it kind of gives you an idea what we're talking about in terms of target separation. I know that sounds basic, but I think it's important to understand.
That'd be basic for everyone that's been in the infantry. Everyone else is going, "What the hell's an azimuth, Travis?"
This is true. Good point. So, yeah. So, and I would say it's very interesting because your results mirrored what Max and I found. Like, unbelievably close to exactly what we found. And I guess I got off topic there, but the three different methods, let's talk about those real quick. I would say the first one is a linear or a straight where you keep the gun out and you transition directly along is that the x-axis?
Yep. That's what I used as my control for the testing, was that one.
Beautiful,
I think I
beautiful.
called
And
it,
the
I think I
Y,
called it straight on the. Did I call
yeah,
it straight on the spreadsheet, or did I call it a control?
I
I
think
don't
you
remember.
called it straight, which I think makes, it's a pretty good describer. Um, and then the y-axis would be, of course, vertical.
Yep.
Okay, so that's basically straight. You might even call it conventional. I mean, until more people were using what we would call a rainbow. How would you describe the rainbow?
Uh, I mean, you literally draw a rainbow to the target. I can't keep it in my frame, but
Yeah.
you're starting to move the gun on both the x-axis and the y, and then because our arms are a fixed length, you end up kind of moving it on the, if you want to call this the Z, you move it on that axis as well because you pull it into your body some as you're not actually shortening your arm, but as you come up and over, it does come in close to your torso. Um,
Good.
But basically, you're just drawing a rainbow with a gun. I just way overcomplicated it, but yeah, you're
No,
looking
that's
for like
good.
arms and sending it over there.
That's good. I like it. So, like a micro rainbow would be like this.
Yeah.
Okay. And then finally we have, which I've always called the compressed or you describe on the spreadsheet a pull in. Can you describe that really quick?
Yeah, so on that one, we're not moving the gun on the y-axis, but we are like compressing it into our chest as we come across to the target, to that across that wide transition. Um,
Excellent. And I actually have a demonstration by you in a stage to show this. Okay, here we go. This is a compressed transition. Greg has shot a bank of targets to his right here, and he's got a pretty wide swing to go to the left, and you'll see him compress the pistol in and then present. There it is. Good, let's watch that again.
yeah.
And let's go ahead and look at so Greg, you took it out to the range and you collected this data right here. So let's talk about this. You started with a 90-degree swing at a close target.
Ultimately, like halfway through the first transition type, I decided I was shooting a target that was too close, and so that's why I pushed the 120-degree test out much further. Well, a bit further. Still not crazy far, but
Yes. Well, what I like about the 15-yard target, though, is it does take a degree of confirmation before you break the shot. And so to me, this is more valuable data. This is more realistic of what you would find in a match.
yep, I agree.
Okay, so let's quickly look at the 90-degree. For the straight method, which is just straight along the x-axis without pulling it in, is you got about an average of 0.66.
Yep.
That's
And that's the time of the. So basically, how I set this up is I'd be aiming at a target 90 degrees, the one I was going to shoot, and on the tone, I'd just send one shot at the target after the transition. So that 0.66 is 0.66 seconds for that transition to get from A to B.
perfect. Another thing I like about the testing that you did is you isolated the component that you were testing, meaning you didn't include a draw. You weren't building your grip on the timer. You had the gun aimed at the signal, and of course, this doesn't take into consideration your reaction time because we're not concerned with that. You're simply getting the time between shots, which is isolating the transition.
Yep.
So very valuable. And you also did your hits here. So 98.5% A's.
Yes.
It's consistently accurate. Let's move over to the rainbow, which is the middle column here. 90-degree, close target. The rainbow gave you you were 1/100th faster.
Yeah, and I will say the rainbow feels better, and I think it feels better for the same reason that the pull-in method is better, is you're like reducing the lever arm that the pistol has over you when you bring the gun close to your body, and by rainbowing it, you are getting the gun close to your body. However, we see the hits fall off by 0.5%, and that's just because now we're moving the gun on both that x-axis and the y-axis, and it gets really easy to not just overshoot left-right, but like pull a bit too early and shoot just above the A or shoot just below the A as we come in on that y-axis as well.
That totally makes sense. Yes, big time. Great point too. So, and then we look into the compressed, which we have labeled here as pull in, and we have the fastest transition time at 62 hundredths
And
of
the
a second.
best hit percentage.
Thank you, thank you. That's important, and we'll talk about why I believe that is. But so you accumulated this data on a 90-degree closer target, and you're like,
Mhm.
look, I need a better test. So now we push the target out to 15 yards and we opened it up to 120. You separated the targets more. You used the same isolation principle, correct?
Yes, yep. Same exact testing method, just different target setup.
So for the straight, the linear type, you have a 94. That was so a little bit under a second, guys, between targets, and a 98.5% A. You're still staying primarily in the A zone, which also I think is conducive to accurate testing results.
Yeah, I'm not just slamming the gas pedal to the floor just to try to maximize the time.
Exactly. When you went to the rainbow, okay, you took 200ths off of the time, and on this one you did maintain the same accuracy.
I did, yeah. Yep.
And finally, we go to the compressed, or what we have is labeled as pull in, and we finally have our fastest transition here, averaging 88. So, and the best hits.
Yes. Yep. Cleaned it up by 1 alpha. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful, Greg. And just going back to that, what I talked about, where Max, Michelle, and I were testing this, ages ago, we did separate the targets out to like 150, 160. And I saw that because right here you have about 400ths difference between the rainbow and the compressed. Would you agree? Was it 400ths?
Yep. 400ths and 600ths to the straight.
To the straight, okay. And what I found was the greater the separation, the more the compressed. So at some point I had about a 700ths improvement. So very close numbers, but as it got wider, it was more valuable to do that. I like the fact that it's the fastest and 99% A's is.
Yeah, that's really cool to see. Usually, as the speed gets better, the targets fall off, but yeah.
How often do we see that? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
all the time. Yeah.
all the time, all the time. Yeah, that is great. We have some more data that you captured here. I'd like to show that as well.
Yeah, so this is all off the same data. It's just running some statistics stuff. It's my biochem nerd coming out in me. But
I love it. So we've got the min, we've got the max. This is in terms of the shortest and the longest time, correct?
yes. So Q1 is the 25th percentile. So that represents, anything under 0.64 is in that bottom 25%. Or sorry, 25% of the data falls under 0.64.
Falls under that. Oh, and the median We know what the median. It's interesting looking at the median at the 120 degree between the techniques. That compress, that pull in is really leading the way.
It really is, yeah.
Wow.
The they had the best max and the best min as well in terms of the range of the data.
It did,
Yep.
yes. And can you and exclusive? The mean exclusive means it excludes.
It
Uh,
excludes outliers. And I didn't just arbitrarily select the outliers. I calculated a upper and lower bound using the interquartile range at the bottom, and so it wasn't just me arbitrarily saying, I don't like that data, I'm going to throw that piece out. But so yeah, the mean exclusive just gets rid of those outliers. They were the ones highlighted in red on the other page.
Perfect. It speaks to the accuracy of the data to me. And Q3 is has to do with 75%.
Yep. So 75% of the data is 0.68 or less for the straight 90 degree.
Oh, please refresh my memory on IQR.
IQR is interquartile range, and it's Q3 minus Q1.
Nice. This, my friend, is how you suss out a technique and you test it and you acquire the data. You know, I feel like with this, when you and I go to a stage and we're presented with this target array with this wide separation, we know what to do.
Is the compressed method or pull-in or whatever you want to call it is not only faster, but it's more consistent on hits. And I think that's because every day when we draw, we present the gun to an alpha. And now, basically, you're, like I said earlier, the rainbow method feels good because you're, like, reducing the leverage that the gun has over you, which makes it easier. It feels like it takes less effort to throw the gun across the transition. The pull-in or compressed method has that same benefit of reducing that lever arm, but now the gun's almost traveling a more straight path to the target because you've kind of just drawn a line between where the gun was and the next target, and you're pulling it in and you're driving across that line. So now you've found the straight line, and then reducing that lever arm, so it takes less effort to do it, and we push a gun at an alpha every time we draw the gun. So it's a familiar movement. It's not a new foreign thing per se.
Wow, that sums it up so well. You're doing a much better job of describing this that I initially did when I did this testing. I don't think I thought about as far as the lever arm and the torque required when you have this really. Look at this beautiful gun. I could demonstrate with this. Wow. Yes, with this out here versus here. And another thing to talk about, Greg, is if you compress it in too far, I think you can start to add time.
Yep, think so. Yeah.
So there's a sweet spot there that you need to accommodate, and I think it's something to be aware of when you're training on this.
I think you can, just like you can have the gun up too late on an entry, you can have the gun up too late on this transition. I really try to think of, well, first off, I mean, you have to lead with your eyes, and it really seems like the wider the transition, the further ahead your eyes need to be. Like, somebody who's way smarter than me could probably put a formula to that, but it wouldn't be useful for anyone because we're not brainy enough to figure out how to apply it. But
Exactly.
on those wide transitions, your eyes got to be there even sooner, and then I just think about pushing the gun into the center of where I'm looking. Because if I thought about compressing it in too much, I would always get it there late. So instead, it's just like I'm throwing my eyes there, and I'm just pushing the gun straight to where my eyes are, and that cleaned it up for me. But
Yeah, that's exactly what I found, and it's just like you said. It's like you have more movement at the end of the transition when you compress it in so far, and you're late. Like you've picked out that spot on the target you want to hit. You're ready to go. You're still waiting on the presentation. The gun is still going out to the target. This is, I think, like an overarching concept here for me, and takeaway here, Greg, is number one is the way that you tested this. Number one, you used 20 reps per, which I think is important to get enough volume to sort of sort it out. I really like that. I like the fact that you isolated it. And I like the fact that you brought in the two very important metrics for our sport, which are time and accuracy. Hits and speed. I mean, that's where we're at. So,
Kind of the whole sport. Yeah.
yeah, it's the whole thing. And if they were really, really wanted to geek out on this, they could look at your file and they could do the hit factor on those as well,
Yeah.
if they wanted to. Yeah. So,
That wouldn't even take much time.
yeah, it would be pretty easy, huh?
Yeah.
But I think, you could say at the end of the day, you could say, well, they're all fairly close. Like, we definitely have a front runner, for sure. Certainly, we could say that there are other things out there that might have more points involved. Other areas that are more important. But the more time you invest in this sport and in your career, you have to look at everything like this. You really have to look at the detail. And I'm excited because, you and I are going to apply the same methodology to entries, position entries. And I think we're going to learn some stuff there.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get out and do that this afternoon, but we'll have to let the thunderstorms blow over.
Yeah, please don't get hit by lightning. I need you on the team.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go hold my open gun to the sky. Better than holding the rifle to the sky. It's a little shorter.
Yeah, exactly.
But
All right. Well, Greg, I just want to thank you for your time today and sharing this incredible wealth of knowledge with us and putting in the time to do the testing the proper way. I can't even put a value on that.
thank you. Glad you liked it. My science background nerd kicks in sometimes, and yep.
Well, that's what we need. This.
It's hard to shut it off too, though. Like, it's easy to
Yes.
be analyzing your shooting while you're shooting, and that gets in the way.
Oh, that is the truth. Oh man, no kidding. That sounds like a good topic for another podcast.
Yeah, probably.
All right. Greg, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course.
Guys, thank you for tuning in. For more information, head on over to masterpiecearms.com and we'll see you soon.